Hello, everyone. Welcome to Thursday story time. Oh, where were we? What was happening? Oh, there was a driver. That's right, it was the lorries ready for the TV, the Eddie Hare show, wasn't it? And Ian was directing them to the school, but he asked them to go the back way. And he directed them into a quarry, and in front of them the tall cliffs of chalk stretched up on every side, cutting off every view. And Ian threw the door open and slipped down out of the cab. "Wait here, won't be a moment." As he ran back to the entrance, the other two lorries were rolling through the gates. He waved cheerfully at the drivers and waited until they were clear, then began to shove at the heavy gates. For one panicky moment he thought that they were not going to move, but they swung together suddenly with a clang, and he pulled out of his pocket the two big padlocks that Lloyd had given him. Quickly he clipped them shut. "Hey!" said a voice from inside the quarry. "What you doing?" Not waiting to hear any more, Ian ran off down the road. Mission 1 was safely completed. Now came the tricky bit. He found the bush where he'd hidden a bottle of cooking oil, pulled it out, and set off towards the school. Somehow he had to sneak in and out again without being seen. Mandy and Ingrid were not feeling so cheerful. Their part of the plan was next, but they had to wait until the end of the afternoon to start it, and they were not at all sure that it would work. They sat in their separate classrooms biting their nails, and when they met at lunchtime, Mandy whispered, "I'm scared. Suppose it all goes wrong." Ingrid glanced round to see if anyone was watching, then thumped her crossly. "It had better not go wrong. You know what Lloyd said. We must get all possible enemies out of the way. Now shut up about it. I'll see you outside the staff room at 4 o'clock." Mandy fretted her way through the afternoon, but at 4 o'clock she was standing bravely in the corridor outside the staff room when Ingrid appeared. "There's a terrible racket going on in the headmaster's office," Ingrid whispered. "He's on the phone to the television headquarters, wanting to know why the cameras and things haven't arrived. I could hear him right through the door." Mandy grinned. "At least Ian's first bit went okay. Let's hope the second bit did too, or we might be in trouble." All the teachers were in the staff room. "I've been watching them go in. Give me a couple of minutes to get down to the swimming pool and then knock on the door." She ran off, and a moment or two later Ingrid rapped sharply on the staff room door, panting as if she'd been hurrying. When Mr. Venables opened it, she began to speak quickly. "Please, sir, I've got a message from the headmaster. Eddie Hare wants to talk to all the teachers in the swimming pool building." "The swimming pool?" Mr. Venables raised his eyebrows. "It's a stunt he's got planned." Ingrid gave her most innocent, frightened smile. "He wants you all to join in, and the headmaster's sounding rather cross and—" Her lip trembled from genuine nervousness, and that appeared to convince Mr. Venables. He called over his shoulder, "Come on, everyone. We've got to go down to the swimming pool. Some mad stunt of Eddie Hare's." Groaning wearily, the teachers began to emerge from the staff room. They trooped out of the building and across the playground towards the single-story block where the swimming pool was housed. When they were halfway there, Ingrid said anxiously, "Oh, do please hurry, run! The headmaster was so impatient." The group of teachers broke into a trot, making for the open door of the swimming pool. As the first few of them hurried through the door, their feet slipped on the oil which Ian had spread carefully all over the tiles. Slithering towards the water, they began to yell, but this only brought the other teachers running faster. As the last of them slipped through the door, the splashes began. One after another, they fell into the swimming pool, skidding uncontrollably over the edge. Immediately, Mandy appeared from her hiding place round one corner, waving the swimming pool key. As Ingrid pushed the door shut, she slid it into the lock. The shouting, splashing teachers had still not realised that they were not involved in one of Eddie Hare's crazy pranks. It would be some time before they discovered that they were prisoners. Ingrid winked at Mandy. "That should keep them busy. Let's get out of here." At the same moment, Lloyd and Dinah were crouching round the corner from the prefect's room, quarrelling in whispers. "They're not all there," Dinah was saying. "Rose and Jeff are still around the school somewhere. If we don't get them, it could be dangerous." "Don't be so bossy," Lloyd frowned. "All the other four are there, but they might come out once they've eaten their sandwiches. And if we don't lock them in and get down to the hall, someone's going to notice that we're not eating ours. We'll just have to do without Rose and Jeff. But they're the worst. Oh, shut up. Lloyd knew she was right, really, but it did not make him better tempered. You're always interfering. Dinah shut her mouth tight. No use saying she'd only been trying to help. She knew what Lloyd was like now. He wanted to be in charge all the time. Well, let him. She did not really think trapping the prefects would make any difference anyway. Go on then, she said quietly. Let's get it over with. Like a shadow, Lloyd stepped forward and locked the door of the prefect's room. Then he put his ear to it. Hey, he mouthed. They're saying something. Dinah came up beside him. Through the wood of the door, she heard Simon's voice reciting, as if he had learnt it by heart. And I take charge of transport, with 20 children to help me, according to master plan, section C. Lloyd frowned. What are they on about? He said noiselessly. Dinah put her finger to her lips and leaned closer, hearing Sarah's voice now. I am in charge of work camps master plan section F with 50 children to help, all people to be split up according to age, museums and public buildings to be used for housing them and... Oh, come on, Lloyd pulled Dinah's sleeve. I don't know what they're up to, but it doesn't sound as though it's got anything to do with today. Let's go and eat our sandwiches. Then we can sneak off again and see how Harvey's doing. Dinah dragged her ear away from the door, feeling frustrated. She was sure she was missing something very important, but Lloyd was right. They could not risk being seen with their ears to the door. Okay, she said. They sound as though they'll go on talking for hours, and I don't suppose it'll matter about Rose and Jeff. Of course it won't matter, Lloyd said angrily, but he was not very happy as they crept off down the corridor. It was the first thing that he'd got wrong. Back in the middle of town again, Ian was beginning to grow restless. Perhaps he had missed Eddie Hare. He might have been looking for the wrong sort of person. Perhaps the purple curls were just a wig and crazy clothes were only for wearing on television. In that case, Eddie Hare could have slipped past 100 times without being noticed. What an idiot he was not to have thought of that before. He frowned and marched up and down by the traffic lights, stamping his feet to keep them warm. Then he saw it. A low little sports car, zooming along the main road towards him. There was no mistaking it, even if the number plate had not been EH1, even if the car had not been painted in stripes of red, yellow, and mustard colour. For there at the wheel was Eddie Hare himself, his huge bunch of purple curls almost filling the windscreen, and a cheerful grin on his loony face. Bounding with relief, Ian started to leap up and down beside the red traffic light, ready with his next set of false directions. And for a moment it looked as though it was going to work. The sports car squealed to a stop, and Eddie Hare leaned over and wound down the window. Please, Ian started. But Eddie Hare was obviously used to being stopped by waving children. He did not even give Ian a chance to finish his sentence. Instead, beaming all over his face, he shouted, Want an autograph, do you? Bless you, boy, you don't suppose I can write, do you? With a screech of laughter, he banged the car into gear, roared the engine, and was away as the lights changed, leaving only a cloud of exhaust fumes. Blast it, Ian said softly. Blast, blast, blast. Then he began to run as fast as he could towards the school. He had to warn the others that the plan was not working perfectly. Luckily, he knew where he would find them all. In the school boiler room, Harvey was shaking with fright, reading over and over again the instructions Dinah had given him. It's quite safe if you do it in the right order, she had said firmly. But if you don't, you might kill yourself. He looked at his watch. Why didn't the others come? It was after 4:30. He couldn't leave it any longer. Oh well, he would have to manage without their help. Pulling a torch out of his pocket, he looked nervously up at the big red handle on the wall which said Mains Supply. Here goes, he murmured. Gripping the handle tightly with his right hand, he pulled it hard down. Instantly, the cellar was pitch black. Harvey switched on the torch and wrenched open the door of the fuse box. With his left hand, he began to tug out the fuses, cramming them into his pockets. There was a quick clatter of feet outside the door. Glancing nervously over his shoulder, he saw Mandy and Ingrid running in. Smashing! Ingrid said enthusiastically. She leapt for the fuse box. We'll give you a hand. As her fingers reached for a fuse, Lloyd and Dinah came creeping in. Okay, H, Lloyd muttered. Everything else is going according to plan. Well, nearly. Ian's on his way. I saw him racing through the gate while we were on our way up here. Now let's get a move on with those fuses. Once we've chucked them away, they won't be able to do anything, even if they do get the lights and cameras here. They had just cleared the fuse box when Ian arrived. He pulled a face, gasping for breath. I, I couldn't stop Eddie Hare, he panted. He really is as crazy as he seems on TV. But I've got the lorries locked up in the quarry, okay? And, hey, Harvey! Harvey's hand holding the torch had begun to shake wildly, flashing light distractingly in everyone's eyes. Knock it off, Harvey, Lloyd snapped. We've got to get out of here. But, stuttered Harvey. Oh, look! He gestured despairingly towards the door, and the others spun round. There, outlined in the doorway, was a tall figure in a gown. On either side of him stood Rose and Jeff, smirking. Well, said the headmaster. You've all been very busy today, haven't you? Wow, that's a worrying end to the chapter. What's going to happen next? I don't want to start the next chapter today. I'm going to leave it for tomorrow. See if you can imagine what's going to happen tomorrow. See if you can think of what the headmaster might be up to. Have a good evening, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care.